Please shut the door. You and John McCain have something in common. You both have overcome numerous trials and differences in order to become something bigger than yourself and to give of yourself in service to your country. Senator John McCain is an inspiring man whose years of loyal and faithful service are evident and worthy of emulation. In the next few moments, I want to share some examples of this great man, John McCain, and to use references. I'm going to use his own writings in Faith of Our Fathers and in Worth Fighting For. Now, John McCain is a fascinating man. In his early years, he was born in Panama in 1936, and he was the middle child of 3. His father and grandfather rose to the rank of admiral, and he attempted to follow in their steps later on in life. He was frequently disciplined in school for fighting. He was very independent, very scrappy. No one ever dared call him a sissy. McCain ended up entering the United States Naval Academy in June 1954, which at that time he followed in the steps of his father and his grandfather. He stayed in constant trouble there. However, he showed exceptional leadership skills, and eventually he did graduate in 1954. He became a naval aviator, and as a naval aviator, he experienced 4 close calls that could have cost him his life. One in particular was the fire on the forestall, in which a missile was accidentally launched from another aircraft and it exploded after it hit his aircraft. His career in the Navy was interrupted by the Vietnam War. In 1967, he deployed to the Gulf of Tonkin. However, on his 23rd mission, he was shot down by the North Vietnamese. Both legs and both arms were broken by the force of the ejection, and he almost drowned because he landed in the lake. He was taken prisoner upon landing and was taken to the famous prison called the Hanoi Hilton. Now, his life as a prisoner of war was not easy. He was initially beaten, tortured, and left for dead until the North Vietnamese figured out who his father was. His cellmates thought he was going to die, and so they basically left him to die. But after a while, they wanted to try to nurse him back to life. He was placed in solitary confinement for 2 years, and he continually refused early release ahead of other POWs. And because of this, he was continually beaten and tortured. And as a matter of fact, to this day, he cannot lift both of his arms above his head because of those beatings. In March of 1973, he was eventually released after 5.5 years of captivity. However, his service did not end there. He continued his naval career, and he was eventually reinstated as a pilot and achieved the rank of captain and eventually retired in 1981. After that, John McCain decided to serve his country in politics. He became a representative in 1982, and he was one of those who eventually opposed having a holiday set aside for Martin Luther King. However, he did eventually go over to the other side and supported it. He was elected to the Senate in 1986, and there he developed a reputation as an independent. There he investigated MIAs from the Vietnam War. He did give a speech at the 1988 Republican Convention. He was very adamant about taking on political corruption within our government. He worked for campaign finance reform, about how people donate money and what money you can take as a politician. He took on the tobacco companies. He did support the Iraq War, which he does today, and he supported immigration reform. As a presidential candidate, in 2000, he lost to George W. Bush. In 2004, it was kind of strange, but he was mentioned as a vice presidential candidate for John Kerry. In 2008, however, he was eventually nominated as the Republican candidate for President of the United States. In closing, through sheer determination, John McCain's life is an example of perseverance and triumph. After more than 50 years of service, his life, both personal and professional, can stand as a bastion of hope For those who desire to give of themselves, to service, to give something beyond themselves. His example is one that we should attempt to follow and emulate. Thank you.